Hi, everyone. Warm welcome to this webinar about the Milky Way in Miro. This is the world premiere of that board, and we're really excited to show you about this. With me today are Alexander and Thomas. And Alexander was the one who brought this idea. So please take us away on that.
Yeah, thanks, Cecilia. Again, warm welcome, everyone. And 2 years ago, I went to ERM and Cecilia and had this wonderful experience of learning the Milky Way map and realizing its great potential. And at the same time, I had a wonderful opportunity to be working with a fantastic new tool called Miro, which is a real-time whiteboard. And I just realized that this would be so good doing it with the Milky Way enterprise maps in Miro. And about a couple of weeks ago, I got asked by Miro to be an earlier contributor to Miroverse, where we should put in something. And I said, what should we put in? And then I just called Cecilia and said, we must put in the Milky Way map into Miro because that would be a perfect match. So Cecilia said, yes, that sounds like a great idea. And I called up Thomas with Cecilia with this great idea.
Yeah, and I thought that sounds fun. And like 100 hours later, here we are. What I also like about Miro is the way that you can collaborate. And I had already had a look at the Miro and all other platforms that actually call themselves online whiteboard tools, and really liked it. And I actually worked in a project with the Milky Way, so this was the missing piece for me at that point.
Yes. And today we're going to, we're first going to show you the agenda. So we're going to give you an overview of the Milky Way Miro board. You're going to watch a movie about 4 minutes long to just help you navigate the board. You will see that you will read the board like a book from the upper left and all the way down. Then we're going to do a little short introduction to what the Milky Way is. And then we're going to jump over to Miro to show you hands-on how to use the Milky Way board. And also how you can work with change management remote with the help of Miro. And then we have about 30 minutes Q&A at the end. So let's start the movie.
Welcome to the Milky Way Miro board. If you are struggling with questions like, will our projects create the intended effect? Where do we have real problems that we need to fix? What IT applications do we really need? Or if you just want to know, what is actually going on in our business? Then the Milky Way is what you need. So, what is the Milky Way? The Milky Way is an enterprise map. A map showing you what you do in which order, what applications you use while doing this, what information needs to be communicated between different parts of the enterprise, as well as how you interact with your customers and partners. The Miro board consists of 4 parts: introduction to the board, map, navigate, and accelerate change. In the introduction part, you learn how to navigate the board and where to find essential information. You also find an example of a Milky Way map for a fictive training company. In the second part, map, you find a step-by-step tutorial of how to create your own enterprise map. It includes a 20-minute tryout of the Milky Way method, templates to use while creating your own map, and a longer step-by-step tutorial on how to continue to refine your map, including adding IT applications, information, and customers. In the third part, navigate, you find examples of overlays you can do on top of the map to help you make sense of other important information about your enterprise and thereby create better decision-making material. For example, what functions well and less well? Who is responsible for what? How do our products and services flow through our enterprise? What areas are our ongoing projects affecting? What do we spend our money on? And how can we improve our interaction with our customers? In the fourth part, Accelerate Change, is when you truly see the magic happen. With the insights from your map and your different overlays, it is now time to do something about it. It is time to start to use your Milky Way map in change initiatives. Here you find examples of analysis you can do in order to follow an idea and how it affects your enterprise, into the changes that needs to be done, and prioritize among these, and divide these into smaller chunks of change packages. You can see examples of roadmaps you can do and follow them all the way to actions and user stories and how to integrate these with other tools you work in. Under Accelerate Change, you also find a description of the 6-field time analysis, a way to help you navigate change over time. That concludes our introduction to the Milky Way board in Miro. Good luck with mapping your enterprise, and please don't hesitate to contact us for further information about the Milky Way.
Yes, and that was a short overview of the map. And now we're going to show you a bit about the Milky Way and what it is and what it does for your enterprise. And I'll start with this quote. Execution is the only strategy that the consumer sees. We can have great plans of how we want to change things, but it's really, really important to know that all of these are only plans unless we actually execute on them. And that's what really is the benefit of the Milky Way map. So what we have are, let's see, that one, the clicker isn't working. So maybe you could help me put that forward. So we have, we like to describe things in models. For instance, so what do models do? They help us to simplify things so we can look at things from one perspective, but also they help us to think. It's easier when we scribble something and get it down on a piece of paper to help us think, but also to communicate between one another. If we are, for instance, rebuilding a kitchen, it's easier to actually do a plan of it and communicate with the rest of the family than trying to explain it through words. And we're absolutely, we know that this one can't be applicable to, for instance, the neighbor's kitchen or my living room. So they're just in this form and applicable for what we're trying to show. And given that we have so much use for models, we actually live in a world of models. And as an enterprise architect, we use a lot the business model canvas, processes, information models, and application models. But that's not the whole truth. And there are just so many other models out there describing an enterprise, everything from organizational chart to what projects are running, or the new strategic initiative, even texts are models, actually. So the question is just, where do we find what is working, and how are they connected to one another? So a normal situation, here's me, and I might get the new strategic plan for the next upcoming year in a text form, usually like 72 pages of this is where we're heading, and try to understand that one. And I might be running some projects as well, or a team of people, and I need to do the budget for them. And then there are ongoing projects. We need to know how far we've reached our goals, and someone is coming and suggesting that we should work in a different manner. Someone might think we should change how we are organized, and that's an organizational chart. And then IT also comes and asks me if I have any questions or if I want to change anything of how they've actually set up the whole IT system. Something that might look more like a spaghetti diagram to me. And this is sort of the my everyday working environment. I have to navigate between all these different sort of realities, really. And the thing is to try to understand how they actually interact and fit together. It's not the easiest thing in the world. And then I might try to communicate with Thomas or Alexander and ask, what do you think? But they might have read other documents, seen other models. So we might end up in this kind of situation that there's a huge risk for misconception. Due to that, we do have different mental models. We can't carry all these models around, so we simplify by actually doing mental models of them. And so someone says something, and there's a lot of question marks about how this really affects the enterprise. It's good that we see things from different perspectives, of course, but if we don't know what we're really talking about, that could actually be a problem. So do we have any other models around us? Here's one. We've all been in this. We're introducing ourselves in a meeting, and here's a person saying, I come from Fiumicino near Rome in Italy. And it's not like these kinds of models is the ones that pop up for people in their mind, because everyone starts from one and the same model, and that's the map of Europe. And given the information that we had, we can say that at least Fiumicino is not here, because we heard Italy, and that's a very recognizable country due to its form. So we can zoom in towards Italy. And if we have any clue about where maybe Rome is situated, we can zoom in towards that area. And I might even have a friend who lives in Fiumicino, so I might have these kinds of mental models of what Fiumicino looks like. But regardless of how much we can zoom in or out, we at least all start from one and the same model. So what are the benefits of geographical maps? One is that we have decided about different, that north should always be up on a map. This is a map of Sweden, and the southernmost part of Sweden is called Skåne. It's always going to be at the south. It's always going to be at the bottom of the map. It's not going to jump around. It's always going to be there at one place. And then maps also come in different scales, so we can zoom in and zoom out. I'm from a little town called Skövde, and I can't find that on a world map, but I know where to zoom in to find my place. It's also a very stable representation of the world. The continents don't move too fast. What might happen is borders being changed. But overall, the world map is a fairly stable representation. And what's really interesting about maps is they actually contain a lot of different information. I don't have to go to 3 different maps to view, for instance, the typography, and then where are the roads or where are the cities. They're all overlapped into one and the same map, which creates a lot more. It's easier for us to understand than if we would have to navigate between all the 3 of them. We also spend a lot of time actually in school doing geography lessons and learning about this and our world, which helps us to actually have one and the same mental model of the world and what it looks like. And since it is a stable representation, we can use it as a foundation for other kinds of information that is actually changing more rapidly. Here is an example of how to navigate between 2 cities. And everyone, at least who lives in a larger city, knows that it's very different how long the commuting time takes if we, for instance, start at 5 o'clock in the morning or at 7. The same with weather. It's very easy to overlay. It's changing all the time and make sense for us. What's the weather going to be like for us the next 24 hours? And this is really an anchor model, the geographical map for a lot of other kinds of information. For example, historical facts. Where was Gandhi, for instance? And we sort of move to the right in our mind and go towards India. Or Martin Luther King, where was his speech? And we sort of move left towards the US. So that helps us remember things in a different way. So can we create something that is a shared map for our enterprise? But what will we use for North? Because, yeah, sure, we can map all our facilities on a regular geographical map, but that doesn't make the sense that we're talking about here. So what can we use instead? And what we can do is we can identify and visualize the overall value flow. So what does an enterprise do from an idea and then on to maybe promoting it or creating it, and then create contracts, start to produce it, and then deliver, sell, and do follow-up. What does this company do over and over and over again? So here are two examples of two companies. To the left, you have TUI, who is a travel agency, sends people to great vacations. And to the right, we have Systembolaget, which is the company in Sweden that has monopoly on selling alcohol. So what do these companies do over and over and over again? So if we start with TUI, they start to plan, where do people want to go? And then they have to find all the planes and hotels and resources that might be where they should have these travels to, and then market and sell them, and then on to actually deliver these fantastic travel plans, so people can go on their vacation and have their guided tours and babysitting and everything else that needs to be combined with that, and then do follow up. What did the people, what did the customer think? Where did it go financially well, etc., and to start over into the next plan for the next season. And if we look at Systembolaget, they have a shift in product range that they do 4 times a year. So they start to plan as well. What do Swedes want to drink? We have a speciality at Christmas, which is called glögg, which is a form of glue wine. That doesn't work to sell in the summertime, for instance. So what do they want to sell at the moment? And then we go into product management, trying to find these great wines and beverages that we can offer. We inform the public that this is coming out, and then we launch and sell and do follow-up. What worked? What should stay in the product range, and what should we shift out? So that's the hub of the Milky Way. So we divide into a few steps. Somewhere in between 4 and 9 is usually applicable. And what's happened there is that we've actually divided this area into different continents. All of these steps creates different sectors in the Milky Way. And now we can start to ask questions. So what's actually going on in our business? What is happening in each step? What is being done? And here we can place the capabilities that occur in the different sectors. But not only that, we also ask, when you do this, what IT applications do you use while you create this, whatever you do? And the next question is, and what information do you create that someone else is interested in knowing about and needs to know about in order to do their job? And then we add the arrows on that. But also, how do we actually interact with our customers? So we can add the customer journey to the map and look at how we actually interact, and are we creating the best experience for our customers everywhere? So welcome to Unibiz, a fictive training company. So here's a little tryout for you over there, and see if you can figure out what are the steps in their overall value flow. I'm going to shortly show you a short presentation of Unibis and see if you can figure out what these 5 steps are. So we're going to give you about 3 minutes to read that quote, and then we're going to ask you about what do you think the different steps are and in which order. And that's when we're moving over to Miro. And the short little explanation, the description of Unibis is this one. So I'm going to let you read that and come back to you in 2-3 minutes.
Well, I hope you did your lesson. So now we're going to move over to the Miro board.
Yes. And here we have the Miro board, as you saw in the film. At the top, we have the introduction to the board, and the red part highlighted here is the map area. So we're going to take a look into the first part of the map area. And let's see if we can get the clicker to work as well. Here we go. So what you just did is the first start of the 20-minute tryout that we have here in the Milky Way board. So a quick test of creating your Milky Way map. Oops. And that was identify the main steps in the overall value flow. So when you figured out how many steps you think you do have, you can go down to, we have a few different templates in the middle of the screen here, 4 steps, 5 steps, 6 steps, etc., and choose one. And we've already decided here that Unibis has 5 steps. So let's zoom into that one and then give us some ideas of what do you think the different steps are. So we're looking at the comments. And Alexander is here to write down what we think we have.
Yes, so do you have any comments on what do we have as first step? So let's see. So the first step would probably, for Unibis, that we identified we need to plan. So that's the first value step that we can identify. What other steps do we have as a second step? If we've done the planning and we started there, then Unibis is actually doing something which we can summarize in a fancy word or a strange word called productify. So in productify, it basically means that you design the course, you make all the bits and pieces to make the course work and the educations. So you first plan and then you productify. Productify, there you go. And then in step 3, we need to make sure that the world knows about our courses. So we need to do marketing and sales. As you can see, it's really easy and fast to put these steps into these post-it notes. So now we come to step 3, marketing and sales. The world knows about it. And then, of course, step 4, critical step, but very important, deliver courses. So we can now deliver the courses in Unibis, and for the last and final step, we want to do the follow-up. And as you can see, very quickly, you can add in the mirror board on the Milky Way Enterprise Map all these 5 steps, as we talked about. Plan, we identified productify, next step is marketing and sales, then deliver courses, and then follow up. So then we have our value flow, and we can identify the 5 big steps here. And if it would be 6 steps or 7 steps that you identified, it would be just adding those 2. But here we have 5 steps, and this completes the first thing you need to do. Plan, productify, marketing and sales, deliver courses, and then do follow up.
Exactly. And as you can see as well, we see that Alexander is moving around on the board. And if you would be a lot of people now using the board, you would see all those, the names of everyone coming up. So you can see where everyone is on the board and what they're doing and what they're working with, which makes this a really neat tool for online collaboration.
Yeah, exactly.
So absolutely fantastic. And when after we've done that, we're gonna move on to our 20-minute tryout. What's the next thing we will have to do? See if the clicker will work again. Here we go. So we have make a rough division within the sectors. Here we see that now we can start to wonder about what's actually going on within these different areas, and just make a rough one. Find a few steps that you think this is happening here within each and every sector. So let's go down to fill this in the that one wasn't going to the right place. Here we go. So what is actually happening further to the right? I think Alexander is. There we go. So what do we do? So then at the lower left of your template, you have a legend. Here we have some examples. The larger boxes are the different capabilities, the gray ones to use. So what Alexander can do is just mark that one and copy it and put it somewhere in his map, and write what is actually what do we mean when we say planning? What do we do here? What do Unibis plan? What do you guys say?
I would say course planning.
Course planning, indeed. They need to figure out what are they going to offer. What else might be happening?
I would say resource. I mean, if you do a course planning, you need to have what resources in there.
Yeah. Is that happening there, or is it maybe happening in Productify? This is where you can start to have these conversations. So we can have a plan of what we want to offer. Maybe we have a new cool AI course that we want to offer. when we start to find the contracts we need to do in order to find the teachers for the courses. And then we can go over to Productify. We definitely need to, some portfolio management would be great there as well in planning. And then in Productify, we need to set up the course, right? Create the course, create the content, create also teachers needs to know what they're doing, and sort of onboarding of those. And what Alexander is doing is just to copy and paste these ones in order to get it to work. And then we have in marketing and sales, we probably have to market, we probably have to sell, we might even have to maybe handle the payments as well within that sector. So just add the things that you find going on within each sector and continue mapping. Yeah, handle payments. Here we have something about a website. And then you can start to have these conversations with your colleagues. What is actually going on? Where would that fit in? And start to map what's actually going on within your business. And when you've done that and completed that, and you probably need some on deliver courses and helping students where they are, follow-up could be not only financial follow-up, but also what do our customers think, etc. The quality checkup of the teachers, do they do what they want? Do they do a good course, or do they do as they please? From that, you have a rough division, what's actually going on within each sector. So we can move on to then use this little rough division of our sectors, and Alexander is continuing on to fill in a few other capabilities. But then what you can do is, even with this very crude map, you can start to use the overlays, which we are going to talk about further down the line. But just to say that even this very crude map is actually really good to start to use, adding value streams, do heat map analysis, what works well, what works, what do we need to improve on, etc., or where are ongoing projects happening, etc. We'll come back to that in a while. And meanwhile, we're going to move further down. So this is the end of the test, and we can now continue with, if we want to improve our map on the other steps. So here is how you create your own Milky Way map into more detailed steps. So we've identified the main steps and made a rough division, and then we go on to figure out and capture capabilities. So the ones we initially found might be too large, and we need to divide them into smaller ones. But that will figure itself out when we have this rough idea of what's happening and who we need to talk to. And then we also ask, what information systems are you actually using while you're creating these things? And then we start to map these within the capabilities to show them. And then we move on to also asking, but what information are you in need of, and what do you produce that someone else needs to know about? And that way, then you just follow the value flow and ask, well, who's actually the one who? So yeah, we're going to show you how this is done. So Alexander, if you could please copy the information, and then we'll show you as well how you add your applications and your information to that. So here we have, so now Alexander is moving his map and showing, oops, here we go. Now, so when we have created what we had before was our rough division into the different Milky Way segments. And what we can do now is then look at, okay, but what IT systems are we using? And here you can use from the template again, the different icons for adding the IT systems. So we zoom in and we can start to rewrite what kind of application, maybe Excel, that is being used in portfolio range and plan. They don't have any specific system for it at the moment, which is pretty normal when you start to just think about what do we actually want to use. Excel and Word, PowerPoints, etc. might be the kind of applications being used there further on. And then we start to map these into the different capabilities. Now, what also happens is something is created. You creating something that someone else needs to know about. So what we can do is then start to put in also the information flows between the capabilities, or maybe between system to system, depending on how much we know of how that information is actually being transported between different areas. It might be someone just calling someone and saying this is done, or it could be information to information. So here what Alexander did was just to add an arrow between two systems. So this is all in Miro as well. You can either use that one directly from the left side, where you find different symbols that you can use, or use it again copy it from the legend in the template. And you can also write something. You can change what they look like, and you can write something on the text as well, on the arrow as well. And then you can sort of write what is actually happening, what information has been created. And this is probably at a high level, like portfolio range is set. And then we can also override the size of this because it has a limitation of 64, I think. But we can write in something else to create a bigger text on the text line. So that way we have sort of, okay, so an order has been placed, or a new course has been created and can now be marketed and sold. These are very important business events that we might need to look at. And this is the way that we can create our Milky Way map into more detail. So thank you for demonstrating that, Alexander, and we'll go on to the next slide. So as we said, what information do you create that someone else is interested in hearing about? And then you can ask, but well, who actually uses this one? So you can follow the value chain and figure out who do I need to talk to next within the organization? And also same kind of questions. What do you do? What applications are you using while you're doing this? And what information are you creating? And that way you follow along in the value chain. And what you might find when you go along is that sometimes it's not just your own company doing something, but it might be a partner or even a customer that performs really crucial parts of the value flow. And if that doesn't happen, we won't move on further. So here are a few examples of other colors, maybe to highlight that, because areas of responsibility, especially when it goes outside the enterprise, is of utmost importance.
So we actually have a question here that I think it's from Seram. He asked, are these steps equal to the value chain? The first towards the second, the one in the middle, the hub.
they can be sometimes very similar to the process steps on the highest level. At least if you also do include planning and follow-up, because we really want to get the whole value chain from plan to follow-up within the board. So depending on how you've set up and described your own value chain, maybe you find that when you start walking around and actually following the value chain, that you find new things happening that you didn't have mapped before. But if you already have mapped a value chain, then this is a good way to use that as a foundation and put these words into the hub of the Milky Way. And then we have what else we have in this tutorial is that I can't click on this one. So Thomas, you need to help me. So when you've gone this far, and then you can start to review the map. Bring more people in and ask them, what do you think of what we've done so far? This way, you're going to find new capabilities, new information flows, new applications, new roles, new actors, everything you need. And just keep on filling your map with whatever you find. And we like to have this humble approach about that this is our last misconception of what's going on in our enterprise. Please help us make this better. So you invite people to actually help to change the map and create a more correct description of what's actually going on. And then we can also add explanatory information to the map. There are some fields that you can read about here as well of how to fill it in. So it actually makes more sense to a person to read the map if they find it here for the first time. If you want to use new icons onto your map, please add them as well to the legend so it's clear what's going on. And if you haven't done this in the test, please add your customer journey and see if you've actually found the right steps within your overall value flow and if how that matches with the customers. Here you're going to find so much more information about how we actually support our customers, and this is really brilliant part of it. So we've created a map, but this was the problem. I was trying to navigate all of these different areas. So how does this help me navigate this? Not so much so far. But what we can do is now move on to the navigate part of the map. When we have something that we find is good enough as a map and start to create different kinds of overlays. Alexander, would you take us away on this?
Yes, I could. So the best part with overlays, I think, is that you have now created the whole map. And now you can start thinking, okay, what overlays do I want to use and how would I use them? And the beauty with overlays is that they're like a filter that you put on top of the Milky Way enterprise map in Miro. And you can use different kinds of overlays for different things. You can check out, what information is important and what not. And one of the first ones I would recommend is heat mapping. So if we can move to the next part. With assistance. Thank you very much, Thomas. So with a heat map, you can all of a sudden highlight areas in the Milky Way enterprise map that you think should be of extra value. You can think of these as traffic lights. Some areas in our organization is flowing everything in green. Some areas need some attention. We can mark these with yellow. And finally, we can have also things in red that needs our utmost attention or are the most important parts. So what I like is the heat mapping part where you just put this overlay on to the enterprise map. And what you can do then is, of course, and we can show this.
Well, we'll go on to show two more first.
Yeah. And then we need to talk about areas of responsibility. And in an organization, of course, there is, people who is responsible for these different capabilities. And the beauty with the Milky Way Enterprise Map is that we can all now visualize this in our value flow. So John's team, we can clearly see on this map where John is responsible and where John's teams is working. So you can actually see they're working over 2 different big steps in this area. And then you see, and this is what I love, is that you have marketing and Emma's team working together in a capability. And there you have the intersection. And I think it's so interesting to see today with the Enterprise Milky Way map that you can see dependencies between different areas, and you can see teams where they're overlapping in their responsibility. So you can create good interaction points with the different teams, and they understand that, oh, Emma and marketing is working with the same capability. And the third one is value streams.
Oh, yep. Oh, you shouldn't press at the same time.
No worries. This is the beauty. It's very simple to go back and forth with Miro board as well. So in value streams, you have product and services that flows through our organization. And here you have a blue value stream, and it's so easy to start a value stream. Okay, where does it start? Where's the connection point? Where does it go next? And again, as Cecilia said, we can all work together in identifying this. And somebody said, well, is this capability included or not? And we can together draw this value stream of our products and services and how do they flow through the organization. And all of these things are, of course, overlays. So you can remove them and add them depending on your need. Any other comments by Thomas and Cecilia?
Well, I think you've done a very good job of showing how you can use the map as a foundation to overlay these different things. So shall we go over to actually showing how you can do this? So if you have copied our map again, the way to copy is either to copy the map itself or just take a screen dump of it if you don't want anything to be changed within the map while you're doing it. And that way you can start to create your different overlays. So if we move on to show how the Milky Way moves, and the clicker isn't working again, so Thomas is going to help us out. Right. So this was what we've had created so far, a Milky Way map. And what you now can do is you can work with, in Miro, there are different forms you can use. There are sort of rectangles that you could set the opacity with. We also have this within the board, so you can just copy that one. And then you can change color of it, and you can change what's written within it, etc., to create your overlays and see and start to analyze what's actually good, what's not so good, etc., within our company. And for those areas of responsibility or value chains, what we can use is the pen. And yes, important. We are having issues here. Very good. And if you use the pen to just start to mark different areas within your map that maybe are for a value stream or areas of responsibility or other things you want to highlight, it's easy to just draw on top of the map and with the help of the pen. These ones also come in different sizes, and you can start to just map around, and here we go. Here we have our first value stream on top of the map. So Miro is really helpful with that way, and as you can see, we can see where Alexander is moving around, and that helps us to, we can sit with in a telephone call and have this and work together on the same board, or if you want to use Zoom or other video tools to watch this together, that works as well. There is also a video function within Miro if you want to work with that one. So thank you for showing us that, Alexander. And then we move on to what he just did was actually combining analysis into one and the same. So we can combine our analysis that we have done and see, for instance, how one specific value stream is using different capabilities within our organization, and through which teams this one flows, and who we need to talk to in order to get changes done. We can also map our ongoing change initiatives, if we call them projects or change initiatives or whatever name you have for them, put them there and see what areas do they actually affect within the map. Do we have some changes affecting the same capabilities, maybe a lot of them, and we need to start to prioritize so we don't do all the changes at the same time as these people should be working within their capabilities. These are effects we've seen when we have used these with our clients in different projects and while mapping the Milky Way. Another analysis is to do what do we actually spend our money on? All these changes we want to do is going to cost us money. Where do we spend these? And then we can compare that to, is this actually where we have ongoing problems or where we have projects actually supporting these changes? So this helps us to see new things by just overlaying them on top of the map. And customer journey and analysis of touch points is also a very good analysis to do. So these were a few of those overlays that we have in the template. And if you want to find more, there are also more in the book. And these are just examples of different ones you can do and see what works for you. What makes sense? What do you need to look at? The more we look at the map from different perspectives, the more we learn. So that was end of navigate. And we continue on down to the last part of the board, which is accelerating change. And here, Thomas is going to take us away and show us what is happening and how you can use the map for your change initiatives.
Cool. Thank you, Cecilia. I'm going to switch over to this one. So if you have everything in place, then it's just to create some change, right? What we have seen when we work with the change initiatives is the problem that you have a new good idea. So in this example, we have used the business model canvas. We have 3 ideas that we're actually going to use. And I have worked with trying to adapt that and then test it towards the market. What I have missed is to test it towards the organization. So that is actually what we do here. We test the touch points, we test the capability. Does this obviously change? And business model canvas is only one way of doing it. Alexander, do you have other inputs that you have used?
Yeah, I mean, you can use the Lean Startup model, design sprints, any other tools. And the good thing here, I think, and very good illustrated here by you, Thomas, is that we use the business model canvas in red, blue, and yellow, but you can use any other tool, for instance, a design sprint model, and work with that within enterprise Milky Way map as well.
Yeah, so sometimes Cecilia and we call it the internal reality check. So this is what we do. So in this example, we take one of the ideas that we are going to work through. So the first step is actually to identify which capabilities will be affected, and from that we try to we try to prioritize to see which areas and which capabilities are highlighted, as in this case, where we actually can see the red ones. So those are the ones that we need to take an extra look at. So from that and from that need, those kind of needs, we sort them, for example, into a Kanban, as we have done here, and these are actually tools within Miro that we have used, and as you saw, the business model canvas is the same. So these are actually a Kanban tool within Miro. So the swim lanes here are the initiatives or MVPs that we have looked at, and the different needs with different prioritizations that we need to address. And from that, if you're working with the portfolio, you can actually have the different initiatives like this, and you can prioritize them and see when they should be started. So then again, we go from the affected capabilities and the needs and the different initiatives and the different tests that we want to do. So from that, we very much like to have a plan. And as you all know, if you create a plan, then that is valid for exactly the minute it's done, and after that it needs to be changed again. So I like to use then the value flow for these different initiatives, and see if I have the data, I can have a look at what happened yesterday and what happened right now, and what I would like it to look like in the future. So this is one way to easy analyze what the change should be. Oh, sorry. Now I messed up the. So another way to do that is to work with the roadmap, and the roadmap is actually explaining different projects that I need to do before I have this new state that I'm looking for. And it's just another view of looking at the reality. And maybe you would like to combine the two ways of looking into the initiatives that need to be done towards the project. So then you go down to the specifics. So you have this MVP, you have this team, and then you can actually add the details into each task if you would like, directly in Miro. So on a card, you can set all the kind of priorities and information. And you can also in Miro create some wireframe diagram if it's this that you actually are going to change. So what I really like about Miro and this way of working is that actually I can have an idea from the change initiative from a broader sense down to the specific details. So it's not just another loosely used process that needs interaction that is manual between the different systems. And another great things about Miro is actually we can integrate with other kind of tools, for example, Jira, Trello, DevOps, or whatever you would like to work in. And you can integrate it that it actually uses data back and forth between them. Yeah. So let's see about our problems, Cecilia.
Yes, thank you for that, Thomas. Just a short comment on that. It's really fantastic to see how we can use this map to navigate something from a strategic standpoint of how would different ideas actually affect our business, and then be able to scale them down to chunks that actually do create value very, very quickly, and we can see it all the way down to what needs to be done in detail. So all of this helps us to navigate from the big picture down to what needs to be done, and the other way around as well. So again, this was the problem, right? Trying to navigate all these different realities. I was getting my strategic plan in a form of text analysis. I was doing my budget. I was looking at projects. There were the processes, organizational chart, and IT. So how can I now make sense of all these kinds of different information? So if we move on, we can see how we can use this with overlays. So the strategic plan, I can see what areas are affected by this plan. And for the for the budget, I can add that onto my Milky Way map as well, and see where are we going to spend our money, what are we going to prioritize. And the ongoing projects can be shown on top of the Milky Way map as roadmaps, or as we did before with those little round using the pen and Miro to show what change initiatives are affecting what areas within the within our map. And for the processes, they can be larger or smaller, so they can be a whole value stream that we can put on top of our map, or just a short little process within a capability. And then we have the organizational chart that we can add on top of the map and see if that makes sense, if all the capabilities actually have someone who's in charge of them, or if many people are in charge of the same kind of capability, etc. So, and also for our spaghetti diagram, at least now we can see who's using what system, for what purpose, and if we want to change one of these systems, for instance, if we have end of life, or we just want to make a change anyway, we know where we use the old system right now, and we can start to have conversations of what do we want this new system to actually do for us. Maybe we want to create something new and be able to do other things that we couldn't with the old system. And that way, I can navigate all these different perspectives, and I get really happy.
Yeah, good. I'm going to prepare the last.
Du är mutad.
I'm just going to prepare the last slides here.
I think, Cecilia, I for sure has felt the same frustration as you looking at this. You know, you see all this information that is in isolated islands, and you're trying to make sense of it. And for me, it's been a big aha moment when I first realized working with this. And I think many of you at home or in the offices or wherever you are looking at our webinar right now feel the same. You probably feel the frustration and the enlightenment of having this map, as you showed, and the happiness is extraordinary.
Yeah, especially when the different ideas go in different directions, and it's hard to point out that this might not be working in the same way, right?
Yeah, and I think you said it really, really good in the beginning as well. I mean, different perspectives are really good. So we need different perspectives, but when we can have a common working ground where you can say, oh, well, I see it from this angle, and I see it from this angle, and we can have a playground where we can, model around our different perspectives, then we create a shared understanding. And I think that's very, very valuable.
And another perspective that we actually talk about in the last leg here is about, I will show you, it's about looking at 6 different time sessions. Do you want to do this, Cecilia?
Sure, I will love to. So when you started to work with these different kinds of analysis and we're following it, so here's a bit more theory that you can use as well. So we put in some information about how to navigate with the 6-field time analysis, as we call it. It is, so we can divide the time really in what's happening today, what's upcoming measures, and what are our futures. So we can start to actually have this S, working from idea over to current state. So easily try out new ideas we want to do and see if they are aligned with our vision and goals, and then find the gap towards what are our vision and goals in the current state in order to find things we need to change in order to reach this. Then we can get lists of that, backlogs, pack change, new change initiatives that we can feed into ongoing changes that can change our current state. So in this mirror board, you will find the 6-field time analysis explained. So you can read a bit more, sorry, about how that works. And also there's a little template on how you can use it on one idea at a time, questions you might want to ask within the different time zones for a specific idea, and also how you can use the 6-field time analysis to view your overall change portfolio in time. Even though we try to divide these projects that we have ongoing into smaller chunks within the value stream flow, so we can get as much value out of them as soon as possible. Overall, they might be more in one state than the other, which also helps us create more understanding. And this is also another little template that you can use if you find of interest. And that is actually what's on the Milky Way mirror board. Now, what else can we do to help you if you run into troubles? Please try the board, and otherwise we can also help you in different ways. What do you say, Alexander?
Yeah, you know, sometimes you get stuck and you get frustrated saying like, okay, how should I do this? Both you and I and Thomas are avid and senior experienced consultants, architects, information analysts. So we can help you with, you know, either just being an advisor. We can help you take on the project as such. So we do consulting, advisory for 1 hour or to several hours, depending on how much help you need and if you need overall help. So we work with consulting, but we can help you in other ways as well. So what can we do more?
Yeah, we do have a few courses and webinars, and of course workshops that we plan to show you. So the first one is the basic about the Milky Way, and we call it the map maker in Miro. And what you get from that is to understand what's going on in your organization. So that's one day course, and we will send you the links afterwards in an email. But it's the 11th of June and the 13th of June, and it's a full day. And Cecilia, we talked about the hours earlier. So if needed, we can actually change from the Swedish time or European time to if you are on other places in the world, for example, in New Zealand and Australia, as we have seen that we have participants from. So the second part, Cecilia.
Yeah, we also have another course if you're already using the Milky Way, but maybe have mapped it in other tools and think that Miro might help you and work better, and you want to move over. We have a half-a-day course on how to start to use Miro, tips and tricks on good things to know. And you can also find that on the milkywayacademy.com, where we have these two courses up right now. We also have other courses in planning that might be of interest. And that's one of the one called Accelerate Innovation. That's a course that Thomas and I started to work with before we did the board. And it's become better since we created this Milky Way mirror board now. This is really about looking at problems, identifying ideas, and get this reality check with your own organization, and see how this reflects and how you can really speed up changes and how the Milky Way can help you to navigate in these. We also have, and these ones are coming up in August, and then we have suggestions to other courses as well. It's also about how you navigate with the Milky Way, so how you create different overlays. And also, if you haven't started to use the Milky Way map already, there's an accelerator in Miro with an example of a Milky Way map. So you can sort of just use the Unibis example and see how you can create overlays and help that make all the changes that needs to be done and prioritizing, just to see how the Milky Way works. So those are our courses.
And I think we have even more. I mean, sometimes you need somewhere to ride and really digest. Now we're coming to the summer season in many places in the world, and maybe you want to have something good to read when you're in a hammock or similar. Your book, The Milky Way, there we go, The Milky Way book, both in Swedish and in English, is available. So you can read it and go through it in detail. It describes the whole the Milky Way enterprise map. Of course, connect with us on LinkedIn. There's a group called the Milky Way Enterprise Navigators. So join that group to share your experience and get feedback from others also when you post questions there. And last but not least, you can go to the websites. You have erm.se, where you find more information about the Milky Way, the milkyway.info about the Miro usage, and then the Milky Way Academy for all our courses and the newsletter as well.
Yeah, so move over to Q&A. Do we have any questions? Yeah, that's a question we get a lot, right? Because the Unibis example, do we only work with education?
Well, I can say that it works very well with educational companies. We've actually worked with a few, but this the Milky Way is actually working for really large organizations.
I'm not on mute.
Oh, am I mute?
I'm just talking and you can see my mouth moving, and that's about it, right? I have to learn how to use the system. Yes, that's a question we get a lot. For which kind of organizations does it work? I can say that it works very well with educational companies. We've actually worked with a few, but we've worked with really large companies, up to truck manufacturing companies, and to even startups. So when you're actually setting up your business and want to figure out how should we actually organize in the best way possible, this is a great way to do your mapping and see what capabilities do we need and what systems do we need to buy, so that you're not in 2 years' time just let everyone buy whatever they want, and then you have all this spaghetti diagram with different systems that needs to communicate, and you just create this mayhem. So it works from the small startup up to really large organizations.
Okay. Capabilities. Yeah, well, that depends on who you ask, but that's obviously something you do. So that's the easiest way to explain capabilities. Then you had a broad set of explanation about that, but I guess Cecilia wants to dig deeper into that as well.
Well, business capabilities are, that word is used in very many different ways. We see it as within business architecture, what you need to have in place within the organization to get these values to flow as well as possible. Sometimes they are expressed as goals that we should be able to meet our customers in a better way, for instance. So there's a lot of misconceptions about this kind of word, and it's also very close to processes. At least we go back to the old description of what a process was when it also included tools and information. So if capability is a word that you're not using within the organization, then you can just talk about what is actually going on. What do you do? Ask those kind of questions and just say that we draw them into these gray boxes. And if you don't want a gray box, change what it looks like. Just whatever works within your organization. So Wayne is asking, is the template already on Miro? And yes, it is. It is on something called Miroverse. So Alexander, you want to tell our audience how they can find the board?
Yeah, very much so. You can find it on Miroverse, and that's a separate entry point to Miro. So just write miroverse.miro.com. Or you can also actually find it in the templates section in the Miro board. So when you press templates, the little icon, there you will have your private templates, your company-wide templates, and then you have also a link to Miroverse. And in strategy and planning, you will find the Milky Way enterprise map.
And we will also send it out afterwards, a direct link to it. Yes.
And you can also find it on the milkyway.info. There's a direct link to the board there.
I can take that one. Yeah, definitely yes. But it's a new set of seeing the world, because developers often see things like user stories and epics. So you need to start translating what is actually going on and the value flow, and have that common map in the middle. So you need to start really working with the developers so to see the bigger picture. One thing that is frustrating for developers, as for all of others, that what is actually this thing going to do within the whole value that I'm trying to create. So here the Milky Way have a big part of explaining that, but it's definitely working. Yes. Do we have any more questions?
Do we have the book in digital format? Thank you, Sean Bernard, for that question. We are looking at that at the moment, actually. We've been really busy setting up the Milky Way Miro board, but we do hope that we will be able to offer it through Amazon within a few weeks. So far, it's only as a printed version, and you can find it on IRM's website, or go to the Milky Way academy.com, and there you find a link to where you can buy the book for now. Alexander, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, well, I can start at least. Yes, I mean, ideal, you probably want to have the top management involved because it's covering the whole company. But with any tool, with any map, you can start drawing it wherever you are in the organization. So if I'm in sales and marketing and I want to map out just what is going on in my department, I can start doing that. And then I can start showing my colleague who's maybe before me in the planning section, saying, hey, I've mapped up my division here or my area. I would like to do the same with your area. And then we can continue. So we can do it bottoms up, or we can do it top down. And I think the beauty is that with any maps that we create, we can show it to a colleague and say, can you add your perspective and your information onto this?
And I like the information part, where you actually ask the information I get from your department here, how does it look before that? So I get input and output to my department if you're working traditional silos, as nobody do, of course, but yeah. All right.
Yeah, and sorry, just want to add to that one, especially with information flow, that with normal processes, you really just look at who's coming next. But here you can draw the arrows to who else needs to know about this way further along in the value chain, which can be very hard to show in process traditional processes maps. Yes, the courses are right now online. We will have courses on site as well, but given the pandemic going across the world, everything is remote. So all our courses are now online, and we will be using Miro in the courses, and we will be using different video chats, etc., to communicate and see each other and talk to one another.
This is my favorite part. Yeah, we do. So in this pandemic, I have worked with a client now for the past 9 weeks, totally remote, but they didn't work remote before this pandemic. So yeah, we do. And we have a really crash course internally the last month about this, but now we're ready to really do it all across the world. Yeah, so we do.
And I say you get as much value on an on-site delivery as on a remote delivery. I worked with remote deliveries in October before the pandemic with different time zones as well, and it works brilliantly. The customers are like, yeah, we could have had you in the room, wouldn't have given more value.
Yeah, and we actually did a course here just a few days ago in Sweden. It's a 3-day master course of the Milky Way. So if you're interested in that one in English, let us know, and we'd be happy to set that up for you. And that one we did completely remote for the first time. Anytime before we've used plastics on walls and post-its and stuff, and this time we used Miro, and the result was just phenomenal. And we're just going to continue on using Miro even when we can go back and see each other in the same room again. But this is it's really working so well.
I would say this is a little bit like Scrum, for example. It's very easy to start, which is good. But then when you dig deeper into it and use it for change initiatives, then it's good that you have also the knowledge about the rest of the philosophy and thinking and the process that you use. So to start, it's very fast to understand and get a grip on it. Yeah. What's your experience, Alexander?
Yeah, I would share yours. It's very fast to get to dip your toes in the pool, and then you start discovering that you can expand and both horizontally and vertically and get more knowledge. But what I like with the tool is that you can start like download the Miro template for the Milky Way and start mapping out. And as you saw, 20 minutes on, you're already mapped out the bigger steps and start putting out capabilities. So the easiness is the beauty of it.
Yeah, that was the last question about the Q&As. And afterwards, now we will send out an email to you all guys. And thank you very much for participating in our webinars. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Great seeing you.
Thank you very much.